Okay. Good evening. Calling to order the Revere School Committee meeting of February 27, 2024. Time is 6 p.m. We'll all rise and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Garcia, would you call the roll?
Mr. Stacy Bronson,
Present.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Present.
Mr. John Kingston,
Here.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Here.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Present.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Here.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Here. We also have a student representative here this evening.
Here.
All right. So our first item on the calendar is a little long overdue, but understanding the season and making sure that you were able to set aside your busy schedule to join us this evening, the school committee is going to be recognizing one of our former partners up here, Miss Carol Tai, for her lifelong commitment to the Revere school system, but not just the Revere school system, but her lifelong commitment to everything in Revere and everything education in our community. I know that we're going to go around the room with some comments, and I don't want to steal the show. I probably have served one of the least amounts of service with you, but I just wanted to say that even in your later stages of your career as a school committee person, former administrator, former superintendent, former educator, to be such a staunch advocate for a project in our community that will benefit the next 50 to 60 years of our community, and what you put on the line for it and the amounts of time and effort that you put in will always be remembered by me, and being able to work with you on that and getting it over the finish line. So we are almost there, and the hopes is, and I think that I was so impressed and happy with not just the school committee but our city council to really become courageous and champion this project along with you and others. That's something that I will continue to remember, and I'll never ever forget how much you put out there for us. So without further ado, I wanted to offer the rest of the school committee members to say a few brief words, and then I'd like to have you up here, Ms. Tai, to properly recognize you. Is that okay? I'll go. I'm going to ask Ms. Stacy Rizzo to go first, and we'll go around the room.
I'm so honored. Thanks. Well, Carol, you've been a strong influence to this school committee over the years, and to me personally, you have been a mentor when I chose to listen, and a guiding light to all who have had the opportunity to serve with you. Throughout the district, you have been known as the Grande Dame, La Contessa, and the Queen of Revere. But to me, you were my wordsmithery, which I will truly miss and I will always still need. But what you have always been in the city to everyone is the educator. It's never left you from day one till the future. You have always been an optimistic type of woman, and someday, perhaps, some of that optimism will rub off on me. I will miss your wisdom and your presence in this room, but always know that you are one phone call away, and please feel free to help us out whenever you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Tai, I never got to serve with you, and you have big shoes I have to fill. And hopefully I'll measure up to that. And
Sure you will.
We'll try. Thank you.
As my former English teacher, just a few years ago, it was only a few. I've known you for a long time. I've appreciated your wisdom, your counsel, and all the time and energy that you've put into Revere Public Schools. A moment I'll never forget is when you were going for superintendent, and I was watching it on cable TV, and I was rooting for you because I wanted it to be a Revere person, and because there were other people that were part of the group that weren't Revere. And I remember my parents kind of laughing at me because I was a young kid. And they said, why are you? And I said, well, she was my former teacher, and I want to see her do well. And you did, obviously, and I never forgot that. And again, rooting for you on television, watching the interviews for the superintendent at the time, something I'll never forget. So thank you.
Ms. Tai, you and I haven't exactly seen eye to eye over the years, but I do want to say, my sister had you when you were still a puppy. You maybe 2-3 years in, and she has always said you were the most influential person on her life, more than my mother, more than my father, more than any relatives that we had. You were. So as far as that goes, thank you very, very much.
Sure. So, Ms. Tai, I too had you as my English honors teacher. I have very fond memories from seeing Schindler's List with you to attending the AIDS Dance-a-thon in Copley. Actually, it was at the Heinz Convention Center. And I can recall, your words of wisdom that you imparted on us every Friday. I'll refrain from saying them here, but if anybody would like to know what they are, see me in private. And as you cheered us out the door with a Diet Coke. I have very fond memories of you as a teacher. You introduced me to my love of reading, from Les Mis to Tale of Two Cities, and books that are my favorite, that I share with my kids. And it's been amazing to go from that to working alongside you. So thank you. I appreciate all the years of dedication you've provided to our community and all of the influence that you've left with many of your students, myself included. So thank you.
So I did not have you as a teacher, but I think, as a leader, it's always about how others see you, right? And how others speak of you. And I think the few years I've known you, and the fact that almost every person in the city knows you or has a connection to you, I think that speaks to the impact that you've made in life. So not just that, but the fact that you remember every student from every year you've taught. Like, that is the heart of such a pure and amazing educator. And I think that's something that you should be so proud of, that you have a whole legacy in this town that you remember and they remember you. And I think, you started your path as an educator. No, don't make that face to me, but you started your path as an educator when this profession was not respected. It still is not respected now, but it was much less respected then. You brought respect to a profession that is creating life-changing work. And when it comes to being an elected office, it is not easy, ever. And it's not easy for women. You have also brought so much into that and paved the path so much for other women also in elected office in the city. And so for that, I thank you.
Although I only joined the school committee last year as a student representative, and I unfortunately did not have the honor of being one of your students, you are still one of the coolest people I've ever met. Made me feel welcomed here in a council full of a ton of adults. And I really appreciate you for that. And I'm glad that I did get to meet you during your time serving up here.
Thank you.
Ms. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what to say, Carol. It's been such a gift to have somebody on the school committee who actually sat in the superintendency and understands what that involves and how complicated it can be. So to the point that Stacy made earlier, you've been one of the greatest mentors I've ever known in my life, and I really appreciate that. And I think I've told you this before, but I don't know if everybody knows this anecdote. I started teaching at Revere High School the same year that you became assistant superintendent, and was fortunate to inherit your classroom right across from Richard Champer up on the second floor, room 203. And as I navigated what Tony was talking about, the first year little puppydom of being a new teacher, some of my senior students recognized on the side of my cabinet a WWF sticker, which of course stood for World Wildlife Foundation. But at the time, they thought it stood for World Wrestling Foundation and thought I was one of the coolest people they'd ever met because I was into the WWF. But I actually owe you that credit because that was your sticker on the side of the cabinet that I inherited in your classroom. But I'll always be thankful for everything that you've taught me, and I know that you'll continue to teach me because you are certainly a lifelong teacher as much as you are a lifelong learner. And that's something that we all can take from our experiences, having the opportunity to work with you. But me especially, thank you so much.
Thank you. We have Dr. Garcia, did you wish to say a few words? Please.
I just want to, certainly recognize your work, all the work you have done for Revere. Since the time when I was a principal, you always were a strong advocate of school reform. Any ideas that were very progressive, in nature, you would support it. So, and seeing somebody that really see the way systems work and the work that needs to be done to really improve the system is something that really will stick with me for the rest of my life. A lot of intellectual capacity, reasoning, make decisions when, decisions need to be made, not delaying progress. I think those are some of the values that I really appreciate, and particularly in a district where you have so many students who need that extra push and our principals also need that type of, that level of leadership to really push progress when the progress needs to be done. So all that, I appreciate all the effort you did on this as a school committee member. You certainly were not my teacher. You were not my superintendent back then. We worked side by side with Dr. Dakin, Diane Kelly back then. I will never forget some of the intricacies and difficulties that we faced when we were trying to change the schedule, the high school level, the difficulties, but you were always there supporting the advisory, the structure we put together, everything. So I am certainly grateful for having known you, and I appreciate all the work and support that your dedication to this community and support that you provided to our families, to our students, to our teachers, and to this board as well, to all of us. You are a true leader, a true inspiration.
Thank you. So we have Ms. Tai, if we'd like to invite you up to the podium if you'd like to say anything. But we have your plaque from your, okay? You can't leave that behind. Although we're going to put it up in public auction. And there'll definitely be some high bidders. And this Chelsea clock, which symbolizes the time that you put into our community, but it'll hopefully be a decorative memento for your home to enjoy. And I'd like to have you come up here if you'd like to speak at the podium. It'd be easiest. This is on behalf of the entire school committee. It's a lot heavy. Yes, it's very heavy. So we'll put it right here like this.
Could you open it for me?
You want to open it up?
For the pictures?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then we'll all stand up after the picture.
Right. I'll be the one that drops it.
Oh, it's so... We can just leave it in there. Yeah, just like that. There you go.
It's so fancy. Quite lovely. Quite lovely. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Yes.
You wish to say a few words? And we'll consider.
I wish to say more than a few.
All right, we'll let you speak.
I think those of you who had me as a teacher know that I was not for a loss, and I was never a loss for work. And Diane, I once was credited with having that sticker be the World Wrestling, and I also did not deny it. We need to take whatever advantage we can take.
Doc, can you help with the microphone?
So, am I on here? All right. So, after 65 years in the Revere school system, I do have a few words to say. I began my career in the public schools at the Garfield as a student teacher in grades 7 and 8, teaching English, and I was there from January until June of 1959. And I was especially under the tutelage of Elaine Keeley, a name, maybe some, no, I guess you wouldn't remember that, because she was an extraordinary teacher. She still lives in Revere and still walks around, and she was just a role model for me. I really wasn't planning to stay in the Revere Public Schools after I did my student teaching, because I had a couple of mentors at Boston State who had said, listen, you know, there should be a job for you here. And they helped me get a full-time scholarship to BC for my master's degree. So I went to BC that next year, and but I had classes at different times, and I decided, well, I needed money for gas, so I'll substitute. I substituted almost always in the old McKinley school under the tutelage of another RPS, just particularly loved and admired woman, Gert Grady. She was the assistant principal, so when she was called to do principal duties or any of those, I filled in her classroom. I had 7th and 8th graders, just as I had at the Garfield Junior High. And it wasn't really any other experience, but the exuberance of the kids in those 7th and 8th graders, that, to me, was something so precious that I applied for a job. And I thought I would get one of the junior highs, but instead, Superintendent Carl Linstall sent me to Revere High School. And I ended up staying there for 35 years. At the high school, I met the champion of all champions, Richard Champa, and others who were dissatisfied with the treatment of classroom teachers. So when the collective bargaining law was enacted, the officials of all of us who were officials of the Revere Teachers Association negotiated a contract, not so much for fair treatment and more money, but of course that was always important, but to assure high standards in promotions, to make sure we had people like your dad as principal, and people who really wanted the job. Richard Champa was a great influence on my life, and I think both the Revere Public Schools and Revere High School was greatly diminished by his untimely death. When I became the first female superintendent in 1994, and ultimately the first assistant and then first female superintendent, I knew that my way had been paved by people, by men who were in a position to appreciate what the women in the school system did. Billy Hill, Rocco Malfitano, and Wayne Legue. And I have been succeeded in my job, in my seat as a superintendent, by 2 extraordinary and dedicated teachers at Revere High School who moved on. First Paul Dakin and first Diane Kelly. I hope you will know how lucky you are to have her as your leader. There was no one been better than she has been, but she's been as good as any we have ever had. And probably a little better than some, too. So that's why I ran for school committee. I decided that I would try to support the mission of all the people that I believed in, and I'd run for school committee and I would have voice. I imagine that that's pretty much why all of you ran too, that you would have a voice in what should be done in the Revere Public Schools. So I have to say I've been truly blessed. I'm grateful to the citizens of Revere who voted for me all the time. I'm grateful for everybody who put a sign up in my house for me at my house or at someone else's house for me. I know that people could be doing other things. I know that you all could be doing other things and probably getting paid a lot more for it too. But you've done it because you are supportive of life in Revere. I've been so fortunate to spend a lifetime, in the world of education. The world is always young, always optimistic, always challenging, and always reinventing itself. I've served with administrators and teachers and school committee members who have vision and commitment and who have worked harder than anyone ever expected them and you to do. Because you saw something that needed to be done. No one ever predicted that you would need to do it, but you did it anyway. And mostly, you just did it quietly. What I'm hoping for now is that as I end my career in the Revere Public Schools, I'm hoping that we're moving forward to a new high school at Wonderland. And I will be there every moment I can to stand up and to fight for that. I remember when we had a similar fight to build this building. There was great, almost antipathy in the city for whether we would do it or not. But ultimately, people did the right thing. And they came up and they knew that the answer is the future, not the past, and that we have to be committed to that future. I'm quite optimistic that under your leadership, Mr. Mayor, we'll move forward. I want to thank the members of the school committee for their own service, for running, and for your indulgence with me tonight. I've never been a short speaker. Well, I'm short, but I mean, I've never been a brief speaker. I'm so proud of my former students who are serving on this committee. John, sophomore honors, you moved from my class across the hall to Richard Champers, and we both teased you because we were friendly and because we knew you could take it and because you were just as intellectual and optimistic and funny as we wanted to be. So I remember your class complaining about the New York Times with him. And then I'd take some of the vocabulary and you'd say, oh, please, not in this room too. And I have to say too, your dad, bless him, he was the one who started me out putting $5 a week in the credit union. And I did that forever. After a while, I got so I could put a little more than 5 in, as you know. But and your mission on the credit union is a real help to all of the people in the school system, too. Aisha, I remember you for an extraordinary vocabulary. You were a great reader, so I attribute it to that you read widely, deeply, and you always enjoyed it. No wonder that you became such a good lawyer. You know how to use words. You always did. I remember exactly where you sat and when you had your hand up, right in the back of the room as we looked out that window. You were a pleasure to have in the class. And Michael Ferranti, I'm disappointed that I haven't been able to see, that I was not able to come earlier because I taught him at the old high school. And, he was never, he said, Miss Tai, I'm trying to think of his exact words because he was quite funny, but I'll translate them. He said, my talent is in math, not English. So I hope you'll understand that I'll do the best I can. And of course, I served with his father, Manny Ferranti, negotiated with him when I was in the union, then served with him on the school committee, and remember the day that he said he wouldn't be on anymore. And I always remember that day with sadness. Tony, I don't know how many Materas I taught. I think I taught, not you, but I taught Joanne, I taught Paul, I taught with Paul, too, for a while when he was teaching. And your dad, Aurelius, your dad, we sometimes had differences of opinion, but I think we both, the contrast between us made us both much better debaters. And when he became superintendent and acting superintendent in 1968 and then in 1972, I thought, well, he'll be etched in my memory even deeper for the service that he did there. Stacy, former para in the nurse's office at the McKinley School. Stacy has a loud voice sometimes, but I have never seen her so tender as when she's taking a little kid who had a cut or who was crying or who missed his mother. Stacy was there, always with the arm around the kid. And if the kid didn't have a coat or a pair of socks, Stacy just happened to find them in her closet that day and bring that in. Jacqueline, we've had a short interaction. I was so impressed with you when you first ran. I thought it was wonderful that we would have a Latino representative, and especially one who had such a great background as you did, and that you were a teacher also. So you know how hard teachers work. You give a different and a much deeper perspective to the conversation. Anthony, we just met a short time ago, but thank you. I wish you the best of luck. You have an experience that nobody else here did, and in the Voc School, and I'm sure that you can contribute so many things to the conversation. Lastly, I could not have served in anything I did if it were not for the support of my best friend and lifetime partner, former first grade teacher at the Garfield School, Kathleen Heiser. I cannot say thank you enough. As you can see, I'm a little more emotional than I usually am. Usually I'm a hardliner and go through. But it is an emotional time for me. It's a happy time, though. I'm really glad that I'm going to leave before you. But I'll stay to see my former student over there do her presentation, my other former student here, and all the people I worked with in the school system. Robin that I could call up, and Matt, I could say, Matt, explain these numbers to me. I was an English teacher, not a math teacher. All of you. And the other Matt over there, BC guy, too. So we share a lot in common. Thank you all for everything that you have done for me. Everything. You are the future. Come back as a full-time member. You are a wonderful example.
Carol, can we take a picture with you in front? Yeah. Just so we can continue, but just so we can continue the meeting, we just want to get a picture with you now. We just want to get a picture with you now.
In front?
Yeah, like we do in my.
Oh, you're all coming.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to squeeze in.
Stacy, we should all get in. We'll just have Robin take it. Okay. I'll take it with you.
Hold this for you.
No, that's fine. Running away. Running away.
Let's get one more.
Kathleen, yes.
One Kathleen, right here.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Carol. Thank you very much.
I was reaching in the wrong place.
Okay. Congratulations.
12 to 3 after 1.
So thank you for the recognition portion. We're going to go to the consent calendar, and we have a vote required.
Mr. Mayor, point of personal privilege, please.
State your point.
There has been so many times that we hear disparaging statements about the culture within our schools, but no matter how much negativity may come out on the streets and through social media, we need to be grateful and proud of how strong our Revere Public School family is. On the 2nd of this month, we laid to rest one of our beloved educators, Janine Giuliano Miranda. The outpouring of support not only to Janine's family, but also to her family at Hill School has been overwhelming. From the ribbons on the trees around the school, the sign holding as the procession came by, the lunches and breakfasts that were sent to them from schools all over the cities, from the RAA Union, it has been truly amazing. The words of encouragement and support from their peers around the city has also been astounding. Last week, we also witnessed the love and support for the family of Alejandro Rivas, our 4th grade student at the Garfield Elementary School. The love and outpouring that was seen at Ruggiero's Memorial Home, along with the continuous donations coming into the GoFundMe page, shows me how Revere strong and caring we can truly be. May we have a moment of silence for these young and beautiful spirits, and also to remind ourselves how we need to appreciate our Revere Public School family. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Rizzo. So we have a vote required for the consent calendar. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, we need a motion. Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
And roll call, Dr. Garcia?
Mrs. State.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony
Yes.
Caggiano, Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury-Ellis,
Yes?
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes. Okay, we have the student representative report.
All right. Do have our slideshow presentation for today. This is, I believe, our first report of the year, since I believe we skipped last month's report. So here is, we can get started. All right, next slide. We have our sports roundup. So in the following slide, we have our record of everything that's been happening. So starting with girls track, they were able to enjoy an undefeated season and were able to win Greater Boston League championships and even the league meet championships. So along with boys track, they've also had a pretty good season. They won their Greater Boston League, league meet and championship with really good performance. So congratulations to both girls track and boys track. With girls basketball, they were able to win a share of the Greater Boston League champion title with Lynn Classical. So another amazing shout out to them. With spring cheerleading actually starting their season, they've already started their season on Sunday at Billerica. The swim team was able to send one swimmer over to compete in states, and boys basketball finished off their currently continuing their season with a 6-12 record and 2 other games remaining. So, sports roundup 4. Next, we have our club highlights in the next slide. The underrepresented minorities in STEM Club were able to host Erin Gianetti, sorry if I'm butchering that name, from Massachusetts Bioed. Student Senate, as many of you guys may have heard, were able to start presentations with the City Council in being able to engage in stronger ties. So that's really great. Speech and debate. We'll be going to Shrewsbury High on March 2nd, so this Saturday coming up. The North African Student Union also hosted a movie night about the Saviva Festival, so we're getting some more cultural events in. Feminist Empowerment Movement were able to host a bake sale and raise money for their Respond, a domestic violence prevention organization. And currently, Anime Boston is fundraising through many different means, mostly bake sales, in order to attend 2024 Anime Boston, which will be held late next month. Next slide. All right. Model United Nations actually just came back from their Bosman conference, where they were able to collaborate with dozens of schools across the nation in diplomacy. And the Outdoors Club has actively been participating in rock climbing, and I believe that they've been doing rock climbing now for a couple of weeks, and they're planning on going to their next field trip. Also, to add on, they just came back from a ski resort, spending the weekend up in the mountains, so great shout out to them. Next slide. CPR training. In the next slide, we have, as student representatives, been able to coordinate a couple of sessions for RHS students in terms of CPR training. And the program has actually been so popular in RHS that both of the sessions were booked out basically immediately. The first session was on the 7th of February, with the next session coming up in a couple weeks on March 6th. And we hope to be able to start more sessions with students in the later future, since it's been so popular. Next slide. And here is a request from the student representatives. Accessibility of the committee meeting. Next slide, please. So basically, from knowing that we do broadcast these meetings live to the Revere community, we believe that, first of all, there should be more advertisement of these sessions in allowing the community to know that these sessions are broadcasted, and that public speaking and being allowed to come in and share their thoughts is something that should be greatly encouraged in the community. Not only that, many languages, as you guys already know, make up the Revere community. So it would be more inclusive to include a transcription of the meetings in languages such as Spanish and Arabic. And of course, being open to other languages in the community. Not only that, subtitles are important for those with hearing needs, impairments, and by language barriers. Ultimately, a really useful tool that we should be incorporating more into our meetings in order to gain a more inclusive Revere environment. And I believe that's the last slide. Thank you.
Ms. Matroso?
Thank you so much for that. So I really liked the last slide, and I just wanted to speak a little bit more. So a couple of things here. First, I wanted to ask a little bit more about what the Student Senate envisions for subtitles, because closed captioning is available on YouTube and on Zoom. So I'm just wondering if there's another medium that you're all thinking about.
I do not have a specific medium that to provide that we're currently thinking about, but more or less we're talking more about trying to get subtitles available in different languages. Of course, there's a lot of parents in the Revere community who may better, I guess a good way to say it, like, prefer seeing these meetings in another language, so basically opening that up for them in order to be more accessible.
Okay, and then my other question, yeah, like I know there's some school committees that even have live translators in the moment, so I just wanted to know a little bit more about that. And then does the Student Senate have any recommendations on how they'd like to see that there's different options to join the committees shared? Because I know we have our Zoom links and the YouTube links posted in school and city calendars and on the agenda, so are there other ideas?
As of right, kind of speaking as a singular student rep and not necessarily Student Senate, I believe that in order to spread these links a bit more, kind of utilizing maybe social media and other platforms that we know that the Revere community utilizes more often, trying to spread the link and the word out there that it is encouraged for the community to come to these meetings and, of course, voice their opinions and concerns and all of that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know I put them every time we have them, so I think it'd be a good practice moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelly?
So just one idea that I had, the subtitles on YouTube, you can pick what language they're in. So that's one of the beauties of that. People can pick Spanish or Portuguese or Arabic, which are our major languages. And a couple of years ago, when we were doing a lot virtually because of COVID, we actually worked with our family liaisons and our staff at the PIC to do tutorials in people's native language on how to turn on that closed captioning and how to select the language that you want to see it in. And I'm just thinking it might be a good idea to re-push those tutorials out to everybody so that they can see how they can change the language and put on the closed captions.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Just one thing I do want to make kind of clear, as somebody who is both Hispanic and Moroccan, when it comes to YouTube subtitles, especially for Arabic, there are different types of Arabic. For example, like Moroccan Arabic is very different from, let's say, Lebanese Arabic. And sometimes when it comes to Arabic and other languages of that nature, the subtitles might not be the most accurate. So yes, that is a good tool that can be used, but I think it would be better to look at another alternative, especially for Arabic and other languages of that nature.
Thank you. Any other committee members? Ms. Rizzo?
I will say, trying to get the message out that there is a meeting. I know of a couple of districts, and perhaps we can start doing this because we do have a communication director. Obviously, it's not me because I don't communicate well. But they do put it out on Facebook and different medias, and then even have the link right to it. So perhaps we can talk to him about how he can help us out in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item is public speak. I don't know if do we have anyone up here wishing to public speak? Okay. No? We did have Damaris Montoya, an employee at the Revere Public Schools that did want to recognize some of her colleagues. She wasn't able to make it here tonight, but did want to recognize Doug Goodwin and Nick Maglione, who work in the residency and the student resource office and support staff, just for their hard work and the amount of the work that they've put in over the last year. As we know, residency has been a big topic, and their workload has definitely increased over the last year. And getting kids to school and making sure that they're attending school properly and working on that truancy is something that they do a lot of. And working with children that have different needs. We know that the social emotional needs of our students has changed over the last 3 years, certainly. So we want to give kudos to Doug Goodwin and Nick Maglione for putting in that extra effort and going above and beyond constantly. So thank you. I know that there's not a citation here, but the words from our council and letting everyone know how good they are is, I think, something we'll
And I'll just,
appreciate.
if I can add to that for a minute, I feel like everybody in the school department goes above and beyond on the regular, but one of the additional challenges that Doug and Nick have faced this year is the third position that we had in their office has been largely unfilled. We had somebody in there and then they left, and there's just been, they've definitely had an added burden this year with, as you mentioned, increased homelessness and increased number of students with significant challenges that they're helping navigate. So I think that's probably why Damaris wanted to recognize them above all of the other colleagues, who I also want to shout out, who do incredible work with all of these kids all the time.
Okay. We'll place that on file. Okay. Ms. Kelly, Superintendent Report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we have several items on the superintendent's report, but we're going to start tonight with the presentation from the Lincoln School, which is going to share some of the work that they've been doing around boosting family engagement, which of course is one of their primary goals for school improvement, and also connected to the district improvement plan. So I am going to invite Principal Cassie Sermon up to get us started, and I know that she's invited some parents to speak on behalf of their peers in the Lincoln community.
Hello, everyone. I'm the principal of...
Doc's not doing his job.
Hello, everyone. I'm the principal of Lincoln School, as the superintendent stated. I do have two parent representatives here. Can I have them come up now? Okay. So I have Julie Villada. She has a child in kindergarten. And I have Erica Morales. She has a son in second grade. I'm going to need a translator for her. Okay. So I'm going to speak a little bit, and then I'll have them speak as well. So I have a slideshow. I'm going to briefly go through it. So this was the first day of school. We wanted it to be very welcoming. We had a mascot that was provided by actually the PIC coordinator, Stephanie Rodriguez. She had actually organized this. I was like, I need a mascot. We need a lion, and that represents our school. So we were able to have the mascot for the kids for the first day. They were extremely excited. The families were taking pictures with the students on their first day with the mascot. So that was awesome. The students were able to visit the Suffolk District Attorney's Office. They had an awesome time. They were able to meet a judge. They went in a jury box. They were able to get gift bags, and they asked amazing questions that you would be so surprised. They were asking about their amendment rights. They were asking about crime and how does he navigate everything in this position. And I thought it was great for them to see an African-American male as a Suffolk district attorney. So I was super excited myself to see this. Our family liaison. Our family liaison does an amazing job organizing our calendar, getting in touch with parents. She was actually the one that was able to get our parents to come in. The amount of work that she does cannot be, I have such amazing things to say about her, because she really is my right hand in the work that she does. And I truly appreciate, she goes above and beyond. She actually was able to get, I'm going to have you speak for her. So this is Erica Morales. And she was one of the families that had a huge fire where she lost everything a few months ago. Our family liaison was able to we went to the hotel to go bring her some stuff immediately. We were able to get donations from families, and our school community was amazing in supporting her. So I wanted her to speak. I actually didn't prep her on anything. I want her to just explain her experience at the Lincoln. Yeah, she does here. Español, sí. Yeah.
I'll try. Okay. You're the native speaker.
Okay. Okay. So you could just tell her to say what has been her experience at the Lincoln School.
Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Solamente nos gustaría escuchar un poco sobre su experiencia con la escuela, el apoyo que le dieron a usted y a su familia con la emergencia y cualquier cosa que quiera compartir con el comité.
Hola, mucho gusto. Sí, yo tuve la experiencia mía fue que el año pasado, el 2 de noviembre del 2023, ¿verdad? Pues surgió un accidente en nuestro hogar, se incendió todo, perdimos prácticamente todo. Pero la escuela Lincoln estuvo pendiente de nosotros, tanto de mi familia, como el apoyo para mi hijo, porque para mi niño pues fue un momento duro, porque perdió todo, ¿verdad? Su hogar, su estabilidad, o sea, todo él. Entonces, como emocionalmente también salió bastante afectado mi hijo, pero en la escuela le han brindado mucho apoyo hasta el día de ahora en muchas cosas, como en ropa, el apoyo con comida, con cash. Ellos nos han apoyado muchísimo. Nosotros, mi familia, estamos muy agradecidos con la escuela Lincoln, de verdad, por ese apoyo que hemos tenido. Porque a veces uno piensa que las personas que están cerca de uno, es en quien uno va a recibir algo, y es al contrario. Porque Escuela Lincoln fue la que más al pendiente ha estado de nosotros hasta el día de ahora. Sí.
Ahí voy a seguir. Yes, brain switching over. So our amazing parent really shared, on November 2nd, they had a fire and they lost everything, as many of you saw on social media. And it was that stranger kindness from Lincoln School, being able to think, yes, it'll be my family that helps me, but it was to have a whole entire community provide every basic necessity, not just for her son, but for her entire family. And the fact that the school is still providing that emotional support for her son, because all stability was lost. And so he was really affected by not having a home from one day to the next. And so they're very appreciative of the support that the school has provided, not just in those basic hierarchical needs, but also the emotional support that extends.
Gracias.
¿Algo más? No? Gracias.
So so when we're talking about boosting family engagement and community work, these are things that happen that we don't expect. And as a school community, we have about 625 students, and the families are getting very involved in coming to the school and attending the various events to get to know the school very well. So for American Education Week, we had about 112 families come in to get a tour of the school, get to visit the classes, get to meet the teachers, and just be able to, it's a public school, and I've made that very clear that we have an open door policy. If their children go to the school, that they're able to come visit and have conversations with admin, with teachers, and just get to know the building very well. So one of the things we did in the beginning of the school year, we had an MCAS informational session. A lot of times families are not clear on how to read the MCAS data. So we had a session where we were able to have families come in after school, and we went over the information of how to read it. How do you know how to help your student to get their scores up? So I wanted to have the conversation early and not wait for spring when we're getting ready for MCAS. So I thought it was very crucial to present this information early. We've had Gigi visit, which is something they do in ST Math. So we were able to get the mascot come in. We're very big on mascots at the Lincoln. So we were able to get the mascot come in, and the kids were all able to take pictures and have a good time. Anti-bullying commitment. This is something we did earlier in the school year. I had every single class have students go over it with their students and discuss ways to not bully, making sure that they speak up, they're reaching out, and be a friend. So this is something we're practicing in the school. Everyone had to sign this and say that they are committed to not being a bully in our building. Literacy Night was awesome. We had Literacy Night. We had a great turnout, about 67 families. We had games, we had free snacks, and we were able to have families engage in activities and learning ways to help increase their students' academic skills. Fall Festival was amazing. We had that where families had a great time. We were able to have games. We had someone doing balloons. It was a really fun activity. So we're doing a lot of fun activities throughout the school year. We had the winter concert where families were able to see their students perform. We had a huge movie fundraiser for our student, Chris Chavaria, that recently passed away. We were able to have a huge movie fundraiser for the family and able to provide that money to help for treatment. But unfortunately, Chris passed away last month. We had a Wally visit from the Red Sox. So we were able to have Wally come visit. The kids had an amazing time. You're going to hear me say amazing 100 times. But the kids loved Wally, and they were able to take pictures and just have a great time at the end of the day. And we had all our Red Sox gear, and it was a good time. Family Math Night was literally, I want to say, 2 weeks ago, right before the break. So since we had Literacy Night, we also had a Family Math Night. About 75 family came out, and they participated in various games. We provided free snacks, and we also had bags for kids to practice the games with their parents at home. So I had one parent speak, and I'm going to have another parent speak now, Julie. So one of the things we're doing as a school community, I'm trying to work on the conversations and getting parents to feel comfortable. So we use Class Dojo as a school, and what we're doing on there is every day, as much as I can, I put like a daily quote, and I'll put the word of the week. And one of the things we're encouraging is for the families to know the word of the week of the school, and they could practice it with their child regardless of language barrier. So they're learning new vocabulary from the school. So we're doing that. I'm also, for Black History Month, I put up various Black history facts for families to learn. And also next month, we'll be doing the same for Women's History Month. I'm going to have Julie speak.
Hi, I'm Julie Vallada, mother of a kid in kindergarten. I try to attend every event that the school has. It's a lot. And one thing that's cute is my son loves going back to school when school's over. So it's almost like dragging him out of school, like, no, let's go home. He was like the first one in the door when they opened up for math night. When there's early release, he's like, the teachers are there, why do I have to go home? So everything the teachers and Principal Cassie and everyone that's doing, like, it's definitely fostering a great, like a extreme family involvement. And it's just exciting knowing that your kid like loves school, almost more than coming home. Thank you.
Okay. The sermon, the presentation done?
Yep.
Okay, well, if I know, did anyone have any questions? I had a few. Well, Mr. Mateo?
First of all, the recurring word I kept hearing you say was fun. And if you can't have fun in school, it does not make for a very enjoyable day. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. Whatever you're doing, keep it up, because it really seems as though the kids are interested. They love coming because you make it enjoyable. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Milbury Ellis.
Sure. So it sounds like, you guys have the secret ingredient to parental involvement, which is something I know that as a committee we strive to work on. I know that the different schools are also, having a tough issue with that as well. But you guys seem to have something going on there, and perhaps it's something that we can all learn from. So kudos to you, and just keep up the good work. It's so important to have parents involved on so many different levels. I've talked about this many times, and I'm just so pleased to hear such great feedback around this topic. So thank you. thank you. I'm very appreciative of it.
Thank you. And that's been the goal, to literally get to know the families. The families could tell you in the morning, I'm greeting them outside. I'm making sure that they see me present. I want it to, when they see you present, they want to get to know what's going on. So that's been a goal, to try my best to be outside in the morning, say hello, good morning, go to the bus ramp. You know, the more they see you, the more they're like, okay, I'm curious about what's happening. So it's definitely been a goal. So thank you.
Ms. Rizzo.
So I was fortunate enough to attend the Fall Festival and Math Night. I was exhausted after leaving both because those kids never stopped. But it was great to see how many families attended and participated, not just letting their kids run around, participated doing the math projects with them. And I did take some home to do with my grandchildren. It made me think back to the day that I was a Lincoln Lion PTA president, and I miss that very, very much. So I got to see it all over again. And when you talk about being outside as the principal, I have to say one of my favorites was George Kingston as a principal, and he always solved, my phone said emergency. He always solved so many problems standing on the sidewalk in the morning. And if there was a student that was having some issues, maybe after school the day before, his arm would go around them and say, we need to come in and have a conversation. So thank you for keeping up with that tradition. And I hope the parents continue with their work, because this is their family. And it's going to be the days that you're always going to want to remember. I have all my Lincoln Lion T-shirts, parade. We did parades for Columbus Day. So just keep it up, because they're going to be your best days ever.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can also add, I was at the Fall Festival, unbelievable DJ, great music. It was like you mentioned, amazing to see so many parents and families engaged. And that is something that you mentioned, the secret sauce. And I know Aisha, as a parent of children in the school system, knows that they see the difference of schools that have their parents involved and the level that the kids are engaged in the education they're getting. It makes a huge difference, because you can't do it all alone as educators and as a staff. You need to have parents and the PTO, PTAs supporting the students and supporting the extracurriculars. It's really important. A lot of us parents here, some of our kids went, obviously all of our kids went to the Revere school systems. You know, John and Stacy and Anthony and myself and Aisha, we watched it. We were big parts of it. And when you start to trickle off, you're just hoping someone will take that on. So at Lincoln, it's good to see a couple nice parents. I know Corey O'Neill was a huge advocate at that school, so she passed on the good gene to the two of you and more. But you have things like the parent coffee tomorrow. I'll be there. You know, I'd like to come to those coffees. But just keep it up. And if we can just talk about that district-wide, it is coming back across the school district. I'm seeing it. I go to a lot of these school events, and I'm seeing it in the Wayland. I'm seeing it at the Lincoln. I saw it at some of the plays at the Paul Revere, and Beachmont has a little secret the bees do a really nice job. So we're seeing it at the elementary level. We're seeing it at the middle school level grow back. Now we need to get it at the high school level, because that's where all the parents start to take off. And we get it. The kids want to spread their wings, but
That's when they're needed most.
That's when they need it. Yeah, they need it a little bit more. So, but don't be afraid to get involved. Great job, Ms. Sermon. Fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. The next item on the superintendent's report is some curriculum updates from our curriculum team. And I see Dr. Porter and Dr. Costa are here. And Ms. Supis, I think she was out ill, yes?
Yes, we're going to do our best to represent her.
The presentation is up. I don't know why it's not showing. Can we go to the presentation, please? Oh, no. Not that one. No, is it not showing?
Can we start while she pulls it up since we have it?
It's up, yeah. There we go. See? There we go.
Okay, great.
So thank you to the mayor and the school committee for having us here tonight. Like Dr. Kelly mentioned, Ms. Supas is unable to be here, so we will do our best to represent the items that she added today. So you can go ahead, Dr. Kelly. So there are our agenda and objectives for you tonight. We want to be able to give you some updates for STEM and humanities, and we also want to share what some of our next steps will be. And there's our agenda. So going through, I will begin with ELA and social studies, and then Dr. Acosta will take over for STEM. So the overall focus for our work is that we work with teacher teams to identify and implement high-quality instruction via the selection of high-quality materials and teach professional learning. And we try to ensure that our instruction is aligned to the culturally responsive workforce.
Did you want me to click on that or no?
No, that's okay. I
Okay.
just included the links for the school committee if they wanted more information about anything that we're talking about here. So I'll start with some of Ms. Supas's updates that she had added here. So elementary teachers are currently implementing 2 programs, Being a Reader and Being a Writer. In those programs, students are also working with Tier 2 intervention. So that's kids that need a little bit of support beyond the core program. We have a program called SIPS that we use elementary, but we're also starting to use that in the middle school. Revere was the very fortunate recipient of a $1.1 million grant from the 1-8 Foundation that supports Ignite. Ignite is an amazing program that allows one-to-one tutoring for our students in grades K through 2. And 215 additional seats were funded as part of a DESE pilot. Revere was also accepted into a dyslexia institute to explore that, so that's upcoming. I can speak a little more knowledge on the middle and high school. So the middle school is currently in the 3rd year of the GLEAM grant. The GLEAM grant focuses on improving our tiered system of intervention in the middle school. So that's something that's really established in the elementary school, but needs some work in the middle school. For year 3 for the middle schools, our focus is on common culminating tasks, high quality text sets, a new research unit, and crafting text-dependent questions. I included a sample unit for the committee on Esperanza Rising. So Esperanza Rising is a novel that's taught in the 6th grade, and the teacher team added in a research unit. They created that over this summer. Revere High just received the same grant. So we're currently in year 1. The way the grant begins is with a needs assessment. So we go through all the classrooms, we do learning walks, teachers submit their assignments. We did student and teacher focus groups, and from that information, we're in the process of creating our instructional goals. And our educators will continue to work on their scope and sequence, which they've done an amazing job working on. Next slide, please. So these are some of our next steps, some of them including just monitoring and evaluating curriculum that we have in place. Other steps include continuing to gather data on instruction via things like learning walks, focus groups. We really need to continue to work on the intervention block model at middle school and high school. Like I said before, it really exists very strongly in the elementary school, but it's something we have to work on at middle school and high school. And then I gave some example PD on Tier 2. So that's, again, supporting students that need a little extra support at the middle school level. Next slide, please. Social studies. So elementary social studies, we're currently working with the 5-district partnership to put together curriculum and resources for our grades 3 to 5 teachers. That includes some of our teachers doing that work and our coaches. Grade 8 is going to have a civics assessment. So this is a new MCAS. So this year, all of our grade 8 students will take that assessment. On February 14th, the history coach and I met with all of the grade 8 teachers in the district so we could look through what the expectations of the assessment are and plan for it. We're going to be using part of that, so they have local performance tasks. All the students will use for common assessment. High school curriculum team. So high school has done a bunch of great work too with our teachers and PGT facilitators and coach. I included some of their curriculum documents, so they've agreed on themes, thinking and reasoning skills, so on and so forth. High school just received a financial literacy grant, which is great. I changed the graduation requirement to financial literacy a few years ago. The grant allows us to do some work at high school and City Lab. I'll talk about that on the next slide. Thank you. So next steps for elementary, we're going to continue to meet with the 5-district partnership. So we're able to share resources with educators by June. High school is going to be looking to add some more instructional materials to the courses that are required.
financial literacy. So with that grant, we're going to be able to update some of our teaching materials. There's a focus on experiential learning opportunities for students within the community. And we're going to run a Future Entrepreneurs Club beginning in the spring of 2024. So I put that out to all members of the RTA at the high school. Dr. Costa.
Thank you. So I'm going to start first with science curriculum updates. So this year we've worked to expand our partnerships to provide students with some hands-on inquiry-based learning in science. These partners are really phenomenal groups, and their primary areas of focus are to really improve students' identities and interest in STEM and expand their understanding of different STEM careers. So you might know that we have Change is Simple in grades K to 3. They really work on helping students understand different environmental impacts, and they focus a lot on experiential learning. And then we have Science from Scientists, who do a lot of hands-on learning, inquiry-based science with our students, and that is in grades 4 through 6. And they've actually started a spring pilot in grade 2, where they do a lot of hands-on lessons, bringing in materials that sometimes would be tough for us to acquire or our teachers to get, having activities with dry ice or doing other hands-on investigations. And for the last couple of years, we have partnered with Mass Bioed, and they have an access program, and they work with our students in grades 6 through 9 to get them interested and excited in different careers in the life sciences. This year in middle school, we have worked to implement Open SciEd, which is a open access curriculum that's highly rated through Ed Reports, and we've been able to implement this through grant funding from the 1-8 Foundation. So we received a approximately $175,000 grant to support our implementation, provide professional development for our teachers, and to buy the durable equipment for each unit. So this year we began implementation with 2 of these 6 units in each grade. And then if you go to the next slide, we will continue this implementation over the next couple of years, and year 3 will be fully implementing Open SciEd, but over the summer our teachers will be trained in the 3rd unit and begin implementing that in the fall of next year. We also want to continue to work with our external partners to create and implement some more creative measures to identify the impact of these different partnerships. A lot of these programs are really trying to change students' perspectives in the long term about themselves as it relates to STEM careers, and trying to figure out ways where we can interview students, identify what students have had for impacts from these programs and how it's sort of changed, and how we can continue to refine our partnerships and make them better for our students. And we're also in the process of beginning to apply for a Mass Life Science equipment grant to enhance some of our programming at the high school and to offer some more pathways for students. And we've received this grant funding twice in the last 10 years, which, as you all may know, science equipment can be really expensive, and doing hands-on science is quite a cost. So we're hopeful for some more funding to support those next steps at the high school. So math curriculum updates. We're in our 2nd full year of fully implementing illustrative math in grades K through 5. Illustrative math is student-centered materials. It really involves a lot of instructional routines where students are making discoveries, students are representing ideas in different ways. There's a lot of differentiated supports in illustrative math. And we received last year, to support our implementation, we received an accelerating math grant from the Department of Education that helped us buy the materials last year, and also helped fund professional learning for our teachers to make some of the shifts required of implementing illustrative math. We have continued with some PD this year for our teachers. We've also had ongoing support for our teachers in implementing the program with math coaches, and also engaging in different protocols during PGT time. And if you move to the next slide. So our curriculum next steps in math, we are in the process of forming. We actually had our first meeting this afternoon, an instructional materials review team for grades 6 to 12 math. And we have representatives from all the middle schools and high school, and we include teacher representatives, coaches, and administrators. And we worked this afternoon to establish some of our priorities for new materials, building off some of the strengths that we have and areas that we'd like to grow. And we will be selecting something that receives favorable ratings from Ed Reports, which is a consumer reports for instructional materials. And that is the end of the presentation. If there are any questions.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing? Sorry, before. So, John, the email you sent about the new state requirements around early reading programs that Stacy had mentioned, we all filled that out saying that we were not in favor of what the state was trying to do. That's related to the Ed Reports that Matt referenced and Christina referenced several times in their presentation, making sure as much as we can that our curriculum is favorably rated by Ed Reports and by the state's version of that, which is Curate. But what we have to be careful of, and what we're worried about with the statewide mandate, is that not all curriculum materials have the opportunity to be reviewed by Ed Reports or Curate, and that's where it gets tricky. The company themselves have to apply for a review, and if they don't apply for a review, they won't automatically be approved. So that's why we're against that legislation that you had brought up on the email last week, and I just wanted to connect that to what Christina and Matt were presenting here on the curriculum front.
Sorry, I realized we were missing a document. But so my two questions might be to you or also to Dr. Kelly. So my first one is, if you could speak a little bit more about how are we making the curriculum more culturally and linguistically sustaining across all subjects? And if you could just provide some examples of what that is looking like.
Okay, I can talk about that. Thank you for that question. So one of the processes that we put in, and we started this work with Dr. Garcia on our team, was a curriculum review process where we would look through different grades at different years and we would evaluate them against a rubric. So I wasn't prepared in my head, but it's I think it was the NY, I'll find the rubric. We have a rubric that we use that we modified. We did an equity audit last year. We started the process with grade 10 ELA. And as a result of that process, we removed some of the books, and the teachers chose The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I know everyone has read it. It's fabulous for the 10th grade. So we have a document where our courses are going to be evaluated against that rubric every certain number of years to make sure that the materials we're choosing are culturally sustaining. And we also included students in that process, so it was really great to do that at the high school.
You answered my other questions.
We had a
like,
bunch
what
of
does it look
students.
like?
It was great, yeah. And I'd be happy to share that with Dr. Kelly if you wanted to see the results. I think we might have, yeah. Yep.
Ms. Milbury-Ellis?
Sure, I would be interested in reviewing the rubric that is used.
Yep.
But my question for you is, well, first I just want to comment that the Change is Simple and the Science for Scientists, I know that the kids love it. My daughter absolutely loved it when she was in the younger grades. The Change is Simple, I recall her going to like a marsh in Lynn to meet the Change is Simple scientist, to do some exploring during the summer one day, and now she's in 4th grade, so it's the Science for Scientists. And every time they're there, she comes home with, a vial of some specimen of something or another that I put in her area. But anyway, it's all good work. It's great stuff. So keep that up. My only question for you is, and this is just a general question, is there any aspect of our curriculum that we're phasing out, or that we're maybe it's outdated, that we're looking to move away from?
Do you want to take that? You want me to?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we always have to think about is just how technology, and I mean, this has been something that we've faced in education for a long time, should have us evolve our practices and reflect on our work. And obviously right now something that people are talking a lot about is AI and how that impacts our work. And I mean, tonight we were meeting with the math review team and thinking about and talking about those impacts. And I think it just requires us to think about what are our priorities, what are our goals with a certain curriculum and content area. And if you think about in mathematics, when a lot of us went to school, we focused on rote procedures and like algorithms and memorizing those procedures. And, now with technology, having those rote procedures memorized and automatized isn't as important as it was years ago. That technology can do that, but what is important for students is having a deep understanding and having a conceptual understanding. So a lot of times in a subject like math, we might move away from just all of that focus on procedural fluency and really try to emphasize a deep understanding, emphasize problem solving, emphasize multiple representations of problems, as opposed to this is the way the teacher showed me how to do it. I'm going to go home and do 25, 30 problems just like this, and sort of like drill and kill type stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just want to add one thing. I think the tool they're using for identification of bias in terms of content and language, it's the Washington model.
Washington model?
Yeah, we can share that with you.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have two other presentations. Let me just see here. On the superintendent's report, and these will be brief. They're more or less updates, I think, although the McKinley one is might be some new information for everybody. We have been able to make some progress on the project. Of course, these are sideways. On the project of the renovation, along with the city, of the McKinley School. I'm trying to see if I can rotate these. Here we go. Oh my God, of course it's telling me I need a trial. Okay, that's not gonna work. I think that you got copies in your packets today that you can look at. I'm not gonna try to bring it up because the images will be sideways, but we have made some progress, and I don't know if the mayor wants to speak for a minute about why we're going with, if you look at the packet that you got today, it says Plan B. Scheme B, yes. There was a Scheme A that we're not going to go with because we're going to be partnering with the rec center, which is the local 911, and I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Thank you. You'll see the Scheme B. This is for the McKinley School redesign, which, as you know, has been in a planning process for quite some time. There was even a community process that was done, I think, during or prior to COVID, which many members joined. Early childhood education was identified as something that was one of the biggest needs of our community, and repurposing the school to suffice the needs of the city. Part of the other growing demands in our community is we have a regional 911 response team that we partner with the city of Winthrop, and we share the load of our 911 call center, and that NMREC program is designed to potentially have a third community, which of course shares the financial responsibility. It helps cities like Revere be able to afford having this 911 call center. So we have the capacity to bring another community in, and we are in talks with another additional community to join our 911 response team. The Scheme B offers if you look at the building, the left side of the building would be designated mostly for the preschool, and it's going to be able to have about 15,000 square foot of classroom space and preschool and early childhood education. There'll be a basement level of about 5,000 square feet that will be designated to a food hub. The city received a grant a few years back, so they have $2 million in a reserve grant that can help dedicate that to some sort of a shared or community commercial type of kitchen. This was something that was in conjunction with the city's master plan just a few years back, where there's going to be use for incubator space and other community space that can help serve the needs of the food community. And then the right side, which is approximately 10,000 square feet, and the reason that the partners that are involved like this was it allows for one specific portion of the building to be carved out for the 911 call center. There'll be training space available to the entire community or the multiple communities that use it. And the best part about all of this is by bringing on the 911 call center into that building, it's going to take a large load off of the funding needed by the community to build the school. So the 911 call center could generate up to between $8 and $15 million in state aid to support the building of the school. So when you think about that, when you're renovating the school, and we know that we have other priorities in line, to be able to have a state entity take on a large responsibility, we're going to have to put a heating system in. They're going to take on a big portion of that. We're going to have to put a new roof on. They're going to pay for a big portion of that. We're going to have to renovate the landscaping and do things like asbestos remediation. They're going to pay for a big share of that, and then help provide the upkeep for the building for years to come. So the Regional 911 Call Center is submitting their bid on March 7th. They will hear word back on or before July. And the great news is the state 911 came down toward the site. They looked at 4 options outside of the city and 1 option inside of the city. And they chose the best option to be the Revere site because of the fiber optics that go right into line with our firehouse. So that's great news, because it's going to really take a huge load off of the taxpayers of Revere and getting outside funding to renovate this school. So we're excited for that, and it's still early, but I know that Dr. Kelly has done a good job of being responsible with the finances of the school and has preserved some of her ESSER funding, and we think that we're going to be able to do this with minimal impact to the community.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to mention, is that this committee will recall that when we did our contemplation of how to spend the ESSER 3 funding, which I know was a while ago, one of the things we had done was allocated about $6.5 million for a rehab project for an early childhood center at the McKinley. And we did get state approval for all of that. That funding needs to be spent by the end of September. So what we're going to do with the mayor's guidance is embark on this mission and start the rehab on the early childhood section of this building and get that work going, which we can do while we're waiting for final authorization of the grant that the 911 call center is going to get. And we're doing that understanding that there is huge support at the state level for that grant to be approved. And the mayor, of course, will continue to do his due diligence to make sure that's still going to happen. But even if it were to maybe become questionable for whatever reason, we can still look at a valuable investment in the funds that were approved from the district ESSER grant by just containing it in that one half of the building. It's not like if we looked at the Plan A, both programs ran across the length, and that would have been more of a challenge. So this is very, very rough draft. But what we're looking at is, if you look on your screens now, the basement B plan, there's no part of the preschool that would be housed there. That's where the food hub would be on the left and the call center would be on the right, as the mayor mentioned, or portions of the call center. And then if I go up to the first floor of the building, I get a lot of feedback. If you go up to the first floor of the building, here's where you see the beginnings of the early childhood center over on the left. There are actually 3 classrooms here, along with a couple of offices and some special education programming. Let me see if I can make this bigger so it's a little bit more visible. Yeah. The front office, the directors, is a meeting room here, a copy center. And then this is the sensory gym for the kids who need some of those services. And then if we go up to the second floor, 5 more classrooms. So it's a total of, right now in this design, 8 new additional early childhood classrooms. And there are other pieces here. If we go up to the 3rd floor, and this is where the CAFA gymatorium currently is, that would still be meeting space, lunch space, storage, some teacher's lounge room, other pieces that we need to have so that we can call this a school. And the one, actually, let me go back to the first picture. One thing that we're required to have in order to have reimbursement from the state is a dedicated play space, and that's what you see over on this side of the building, which would be away from these other uses. And again, there'd be access right out of the building for the kids. And what you see in this red block in the middle is almost like a shared space. It's the main entrance to, it's designed to be the main entrance to the early childhood center, but you would come in to the left to the early childhood. You could go in to the right to the 911 call center. There are elevators to make the whole building handicap accessible. And yeah, I think that's everything, right?
I know Ms. Montrose has some questions, but we'll be happy to try to answer what we can. It is in the early stages. Again, great point too is if you notice the governor announced in her State of the Commonwealth the funding sources for Gateway Communities early childhood education programs. So we are going to continue to be aggressive to make sure we're getting more of that to, again, cover the big bulk of this and not have to really incur any debt across the community. Ms. Monteroso?
Yeah, so you may not have all the answers to this, but so this would this be a full-time preschool program or half-day?
Our plan would be for this, that this would be, I shouldn't say this. Our plan is to be able to expand to have full-day early childhood care in the district. And, you know, one of the things I met with the early childhood team earlier this week to start brainstorming, and one of the questions they had was, well, will we move all of the early childhood programs out of the schools that we have right now? And I said, no, our plan is to have more early childhood, but we might think about whether or not those programs are in the right schools, or if maybe, for instance, the Garfield, which is really overcrowded, we might want to move early childhood out of there, but we might not want to move it out of the Beachmont because the Beachmont has extra space. So those are decisions that we'll have to explore, and that actually kind of leads me to a next point that I want to bring up with the committee tonight. I don't expect any kind of a decision on this tonight, but I would like to understand whether or not there's support for this idea. This is going to be a whole lot of work, both seeing this build out happen in this building and also expanding an early childhood program that we don't currently have a champion for. And one reason I think that we have an opportunity right now, it's a plus and a minus, is Kelly Tai, who's been coordinating the early childhood program, early childhood office for us, is retiring in July. And so I see an opportunity to take that position and make it a directorship, an administrative position, where we would have somebody on board who can both oversee the office, as Kelly had been doing, but also take on this work, expanding the program and going after the grants that the mayor just mentioned. The state is putting out tons of money. We need somebody whose job can be go after that money and get us more money to build this program that we want to build at the McKinley. And in my mind, we're kind of at a unique nexus to do that coming up for next year, or even if the committee was so inclined, if you wanted to think about it and maybe decide to do this next month or something, bring somebody on board even sooner than that so that they can start going over the grant applications. That information's out there now. I worry that if we say, well, we'll add that as a new position for next year, that we will have missed some of this grant funding that's available. And then one of the other things that we would want to do with the early childhood program is coordinate a lot more closely with the early childhood programs that are in the city, and really build some consensus so that the kids who are coming to us for kindergarten from those other early childhood programs have a similar curriculum. And so when they get to us for kindergarten, we're all on one page and working together. And I know that from their perspective, what they sometimes need help with is professional development for their staff and things like that. And I feel like we could develop a program that has a little bit more synergy that would help all of the early childhood kids across the whole city.
Ms. Monteroso.
So the clarifying question, this would be an early education director. And the grants that you're talking about are for early ed opportunities.
Correct.
And then are you asking that for fiscal year 25, or if we'd like earlier to start the hiring process for this fiscal year?
Correct, yeah.
And then, this might be a question for Matt, but do we still we have funding for this position in our current surplus budget?
We do. Like the money that Matt talked about last month about having the additional funding under, that we had budgeted for salaries because we didn't fill them all, that money still exists. So the committee can decide, even in this budget, to repurpose some of that funding sooner than later. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I mean, I'd love to hear people's thoughts to know if this is something we'd like to put on the agenda for next meeting or if people want anything else flushed out. It can be referred, so Ms. Mulberry Ellis's question was, does it need to be referred to Ways and Means? If we're asking for a budget increase this year, it would. If we're asking for it to be included in next year's budget, then there's no need to vote on it because we vote on it when we vote for the budget. But if we're just asking to create the position now, that can just be a vote from us. It's not directly to Ways and Means.
It can be directed Ways and Means, but it doesn't increase the budget, right? So it's really just a conversation we're having being open about it. So I don't know if it necessarily needs to. Mr. Kingston.
When I was campaigning last year, one of the big things for parents was, while they appreciated everything the schools did for the kids, having a full-time early childhood program was key because to go a half day, the other half was always in flux. So I must have attended 15 hours of meetings with Julie DeMauro or longer. There were many meetings at the high school about this project. I'm thrilled to see it go forward. Not to jump the gun, and I apologize if I'm talking out of school, but one of our bylaws, one of our upcoming bylaws that we'll be voting on is to have the ability of a majority of the school committee to not send something to subcommittee if we chose to vote it the same night. So my hope is that happens. I think this is really important. I think my kids are older, but I know I have friends and other people, and again, talking to the voters when I was voting, how important early childhood, not only the education part, but just finding that care. It's just not available. So I think this could be a game changer for a lot of people, and like I said, I attended all these meetings, and I'm very excited about this. I think it's been a shame that the McKinley School's been vacant for so long. It bothers me every time I drive by it. My dad spent 10 years of his life there, and every time I drive by, it really does. It bothers me. And my hope is that if I'm still on this committee, when this school becomes vacant, that there's a plan for it. Because, again, I think the McKinley has sat idle too long. Some of that's COVID, but some of that wasn't. I think we need to plan ahead when this building, as the high school gets closer, and I look forward to that there's a plan for this building and it's in place, so we're not looking at, gee, the building's been empty for 5 years, let's talk about it. Because the McKinley's been empty for quite a while. So I think any delay on this would be a mistake. If there's grant money out there, we desperately need it. We're asking the taxpayers to pay for an awful expensive high school, which I do want. So I don't think going back to the well and say, well, we need more money for this is really going to work in this climate. So I think getting any kind of, every grant dollar that we can find, let's not wait and let's not delay. So I'm hoping that the bylaw package passes tonight and that we could move on this tonight because I do think it's very important. And I know a lot of families would benefit from having that building. And I thank everyone that was involved to help get this process going because we had those meetings a few years ago at this point and nothing's happened. So whatever we can do to make this process move, I'm more than in favor of. Thank you.
Ms. Monterosso?
So we'll get to the policies in a minute, but just to clarify, this isn't a policy change, so it doesn't have to be referred to a subcommittee. It's something that people can vote on next month. The policy, I'll explain more when we get to it, but it's when creating systemic programming or policy changes, not something like a position. But yes, I agree.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go forward with the early education plans of the McKinley School.
Second.
Discussion, yeah.
I think that needs to be clarified. So I believe Dr. Kelly's looking for a motion to allow her to take steps necessary in order to find a director for early ed.
Yeah. So just to clarify, as far as moving forward with the McKinley plans, we are. This has actually been ongoing. I inherited this project, rightfully so. This has been going on for years. The architectural designs are being done as we speak. So the good news is you've already supported this, and it is a school building already, and it's really more about the refurbishment. At some point, there will be some sort of a needs to talk about what, if there, what types of funding sources that would also go in front of the city council. The 911 call center is also something that we're able to do, but I think Dr. Kelly is looking for some support and reinforcement on the early childhood education position, which might be a little bit further down the line, or you're looking for some sort of a verbal motion on that?
So, motion to amend, unless Ms. Stacy Rizzo wants to amend herself?
Yes, I should have clarified it better, but I was going to say presented as the superintendent was requesting.
So
Second.
let's motion to amend for further clarity. So the motion can read, motion to approve the creation of an early educator director position. Is there a second?
Is that clear? Good? Yep.
Yeah,
Second.
second.
Okay. Any discussion to that new amendment? Great.
Good luck.
Excuse me.
Mr. Matera?
Rather than hiring, excuse me, a totally new position, a totally new person, couldn't that fall under an already established director within the school department?
So it currently does. It falls under the special education director for elementary education. But that job has become so large that the idea that that person would also be able to take on finding these additional grants, setting up an actual full-day program, doing a building rehab, it would be too much in addition to all of the special education work that falls under them. The district did used to have a dedicated early childhood director, and when budgets got tight, that position got cut. That's how it fell into special education. And also because most of our early childhood programming is in order to meet the needs of students of that age, 3 and 4 year olds, who have been diagnosed with some special learning needs already. That's why it ends up going into special education. But prior to that, when there was adequate funding, which we are thankful to have again through the Student Opportunity Act, there was a dedicated director who worked only on early childhood programming.
Okay, I understand. I'm just fearful of more directors. I think we have an overabundance of administrators in the district right now, way too many, and I just don't want to see more added if they're not needed. But obviously, as you just said, they certainly would be needed. Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
A good point, thank you. Any other comments, discussion? No? Roll call?
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes. Motion passes.
I have one other request from the early childhood department, and I don't know if this needs a vote or not, but currently the cost of the early childhood program so I had mentioned a minute ago that we run our early childhood programs in order to serve students who have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who have identified learning disabilities. And the way the early childhood funding at the state and federal level works, for each child who is identified as such, there needs to be one, what they call model, which is a child of similar age who does not have any kind of identified learning disability. And so right now we're struggling to fill those model positions. And I think part of it is because we charge $15 a day for our half-day program, and that is more expensive than what a lot of other smaller private childcare centers are charging for a half-day. This is what people are telling me. I don't know. But anyway, right now, we have a large number of those spaces unfilled, which means we're not bringing in any money from those unfilled positions to help support the program. The suggestion that the early childhood folks gave us was that we reduce that tuition from $15 to $10, which would make it cheaper for families to access the program. And ultimately, they think the increased enrollment, if we had a full number of model students in each class, it would only cost the difference between what they're bringing in now and what they would be bringing in under a fully enrolled reduced tuition would be $6,000. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in the mix, but that's what it would balance off to. And my own thought is, if that helps families, then $6,000 is a minimal cost for us to try to absorb. The risk we would be taking is if we reduce the tuition and then we still don't fill all of the slots, then that could be problematic. But we could certainly look at changing tuition rates again if that were realized.
This is up for discussion?
Just quickly. Just quickly, I'm thinking that once this full-time early childhood program launches, I don't think we're going to have any problem filling the spots. I think the issue is less about the cost of the half-day program, more so than it is the fact that the kids are there for probably 2.5 hours to 3 hours a day, and that's just not a good use of time. It's not feasible for most parents. So I have no problem with reducing the tuition if you feel that that's going to make a difference, but I honestly think that the real issue is the amount of time that the kids have spent there as opposed to the cost, because that's actually extremely reasonable coming from somebody who had to pay for private care. It's probably a fraction of what you pay for private care.
So, to that point, Ms. Kelly, is if we have these, it seems like there's capacity, right?
So there is capacity. I think one of the challenges is because the way our program is structured, we don't qualify to accept vouchers.
Right.
So it's our poorer families that I'm thinking of for whom we don't accept vouchers because we don't have that qualification at the state level. It's one of the things that I want to have a directive for. And so when we can't accept vouchers and we're saying $15 a day, that's where the challenge comes for families that are really, lacking financially.
So two different subjects, obviously the voucher program, but, to Aisha's point, to Ms. Ellis's point, is what if we were able to, since there's a capacity, is offer a full day for the $30 or $25 or whatever it could be, and you might get more people to join, to opt in, because, as you know, they don't want to drop a kid off for 2.5 hours and have to come back. They want to be able to drop their child off, go to work, and then have a spouse, a sibling, a caretaker pick them up 6 hours later, and know that they're kind of taken care of for the day.
Agreed. And it was one of the things that we talked about in our meeting with the early childhood team on, what day is today? Tuesday? So it was yesterday, on Monday. Was doing that and giving some of the kids who are models in the morning class the option to stay for the whole day and be a model in the afternoon class. The reason we're talking about that is because right now we're not compliant with what we're required to do. And that's why we're not eligible for some grant funding. But that's why I want to have a director who can spearhead all of this and start having the team meetings with the principal, with the teachers, and redesigning all of this so that we're meeting the needs of families, meeting the needs of kids, meeting the needs that meeting the requirements that we need to meet so that we can access some of the grant funding that I'm talking about. And that's, I'll give another example that I mentioned to the mayor in a cabinet meeting that we had this morning. The reason our Beachmont program is out of compliance is because there's not a dedicated play structure in the early childhood playground at the Beachmont. So one of the other things that we're already looking at is working either with Kaboom or with I'm going to say the wrong letters, CDBG?
Correct. Community Block Grant Program to help build a park at the Lincoln School on the front side.
At the Beachmont.
Right. Beachmont, sorry.
Right.
Yep.
So, but these are all of the things that I'm starting to look at and that we're all starting to look at, that we need somebody who can take all of this on.
We're going to go and steal John Kingston's playground set in his front and drop it off over there. All right, we got a couple. Ms. Rizzo.
Yes, I agree with Ms. Milbury Ellis. It should be a full-time, and that is the issue. But also, my question, is it $15 flat, or is there still a sliding scale?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can find
Because it's
out.
always been a sliding scale, and I think that's why you lose a lot of parents. I know it was like that when my own kids were in early childhood.
I bet we had an early childhood director then,
Well, good thing we just approved it.
right?
No, we didn't have
Grace
her.
Marie?
We had Grace Marie.
Yeah. Tony Geramo, we've had a lot of them.
Yep.
Miss
But.
Miss Monteroso. Oh, sorry, Miss
Rizzo
Rizzo.
was done.
Miss Rizzo?
Nope, that's fine.
Miss Monteroso?
Will you finish, Stacy?
Apparently. Go ahead.
Miss Monteroso?
I was just going to say if maybe we could refer this to Ways and Means to discuss kind of like what all the possible options could be, what that looks like with funding, or if there's another committee that wants to look at it kind of, because I also think full-time would be great, but I just like want to know if we could continue with this for the sake of time, because we have executive session at 8.
Yes, I think that the school team can manage all of that. I don't know that we need the school
Okay.
committee to help define it. I just need permission to hire somebody who can spearhead it all, I guess is, yeah.
We took that vote.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So,
The
but-
second thing was the tuition reduction, if you're
Yes.
all okay with that. The reason I'm asking for that now is because we have to get the applications out now for next year. And so
Okay.
it's gonna make a difference if we're telling families it's $15 a day or $10 a day.
And then if we want to discuss making this full-time, that's kind of like, we can move that to another time.
Yes, and what I would urge the committee to do is to let the school department do their work first, trying
Okay.
to figure out what combination of programs make sense for all of the different programs. And then they would present that to you as a proposal for how to change the program.
Okay, so
And
with,
we have like 2 years, I think, before we're actually gonna be in, we're not gonna be in the McKinley next year. Hopefully, we'll be in the McKinley the year after that, but if I'm a betting woman, I would say it's the year after that, right? So we should take that time in between to put together a strong program, figure out our funding, figure out our staffing, all of those pieces, and that's what we would want the school committee to weigh in on as we
Okay.
design all that.
so then with that, shall we put forward a motion to reduce the rate? Okay, so motion to reduce the daily rate for the early education program from $15 to $10.
Second.
Discussion?
Miss Rizzo?
Yes, can we at least find out first if we're sliding scale? Instead of just, I mean, we're not even really sure what is being charged right now.
I was told it was $15 a day and that they wanted to reduce it to 10. So with that information that I was given on, I'm going to assume there's not a sliding scale, but I will verify that.
So,
I actually tend to agree, you know, just, we don't really know a lot, so I don't think anything's gonna change over the next month. It's probably
Except that we
some,
have to register kids. That's what's gonna change
Needs to do form system.
register them for when?
for September.
That process starts really early.
When's the registration process start?
It's already posted. What they want is permission to change it, the posting. They have one applicant so far.
okay, so we could pause the motion. Could you get clarification?
Yep, I'm gonna try to get it right now.
Okay, so, someone knows this better, but before I dig through this, how to suspend my motion. Okay, so then I would just like to postpone my motion until we receive more information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If enrollment's down, we'll readdress it next month.
Point of information.
Mr. Kingston?
Dr. Kelly, does that cause a problem for you? Or a problem for your team, I guess I should say, I'm sorry.
I'm just articulating what the team has asked me to bring to you. I know. And the urgency, as I said, is because they want to get moving with registration, which is what we do at this time of year. So waiting until March for the committee to decide if they want to take the recommendation of the people who do this work every day or not, means that they won't be able to move forward with the work, even if you decide to agree with them, until April. And that's really late in the school year. So
So then I.
And it's about,
all
I think the point I want to emphasize is we're talking about $6,000 to the school district that would save tons of money for families that need it.
Agreed. All right, so if I could, Mr. Mayor, there's a motion on the floor, it was seconded, roll call. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. There was a motion and it was seconded.
I only postponed it until we can receive the information. If by end of day we don't, then someone else, by the end of the meeting, if we don't get the confirmation, then someone else can we can put it forward again. I just postponed until we receive information by end of meeting.
Try to call them right now.
Yeah.
They can get that information in real time.
Thank you.
agree.
Okay, it's postponed.
All right, Student Opportunity Act, I'm gonna be very quick on this. I really just want to share information with the committee that we are going to be putting out a survey to all members of the community. You have in your packet some information that the Department of Education put out. These slides are pulled right from their information on Student Opportunity Act. And, you know, as I've said many times, we're very thankful for the Student Opportunity Act because it has given us funding like we've never seen before in the Revere Public Schools. But one of the things they require us to do in order to get that funding is submit every 3 years plans for how we're going to spend that money. And so we're at the point now, we did this back in 2021, but people might forget about that. So it's time for us to do a new plan, which means engaging the community as we did back in 2021. And the plan elements that we're required to include are the 5 that you see on the screen here. And the way DESE outlines them to me is a little bit odd because summarizing the district plan, which they have as step 1, is really step 5. It's the last thing that we do. The first thing we had to do, and we did this with our curriculum team this week, was analyze the data and identify which of our groups need focused support. And for Revere Public Schools, not surprisingly, it was our English learner students, our special needs students, and our Hispanic or Latino students. We have to set ambitious 3-year targets for improving student achievement, and DESE encourages us to use their targets for the lowest performing student groups, which they send us. They tell us who those kids are. And our intention is to follow their lead and use those targets as our incremental improvement over the next 3 years. They require us to engage the families and caregivers and other stakeholders, including particular groups that I'll outline in just a minute. But what our intention is to survey most people and then do focus groups with the LPAC, the CPAC, and the school improvement councils. And the principals and the directors are aware that they need to conduct these focus groups coming up. And then select evidence-based programs and strategies to address disparities. And based on the input that we take from stakeholders and district and school leaders, that will identify our path forward for what we're going to focus on. And just very briefly, the folks that you see outlined in blue here, parents and caregivers, CPAC, LPAC, school improvement councils, and educators, DESE requires that we survey them as part of the Student Opportunity Act process. We're choosing to add in other staff and RHS students, and also engaging the community by posting the survey on our website. And then finally, in red, the anticipation is that we'll have school committee approval at your March 29th meeting, in time for us to submit our plan to DESE by the April 1st deadline. Oops. And then I won't go through all of these, but these are the evidence-based programs that DESE requires we select from in order to create our plan. And I know the font is a little bit small here, but this will be up on the website. And this is exactly what we asked for in the survey when you see it. We listed all of these evidence-based programs exactly as they're identified by the state. And we asked people to tell us which are the 5 most important to them. And we have them select them in order. So which is the most important, which is your second most important, third, so on and so forth. And when we have all of that data back from parents, from students, from teachers, from everybody, we will use that to figure out what we're actually going to put in our plan. And the timeline, did I roll by the timeline? Okay. The timeline is on this slide here. So the survey is going to go out Friday. We've just had it translated. It's ready to go. And it'll be open until the 12th. The CPAC is going to discuss it at their February 29th meeting, LPAC at their March 6th meeting. School improvement councils are going to look at it at their March meetings. With the educators and the community will have access to the survey from this Friday coming up until the 12th. And then we will crunch that data the following week. So it'll be the 16th, 17th-ish. And then get it to you all in time to review and vote on it at the March 19th meeting.
Thank you.
Ms. Monterosa. Ms. Rizzo?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Monteroso. Is it possible to have the survey put on our social media? Not everyone goes to the website unless they're looking for something particular, but it would be good if our family liaisons or our communicator director post it on social media.
Yes, great idea. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope.
All right, two other quick updates. Honors classes, we did meet with a team of teachers at the high school, and Chris and Caitlin are doing some follow-up work on that. The teachers had suggested that we have an open enrollment for the new honors sections that are going to be available next year, and that we continue to have the honors distinction available to the students who are not in the honors section, so that if they choose to do at least some of that work, they can at least have the opportunity to do so. We have had one meeting with the middle school folks, and they're in a little bit less clear path right now. They're leaning toward trying to do their pilot, moving back to the honors for the 8th grade, so that those kids then will be moving up to the high school the next year, and in the second year they would implement the honors level at the 7th grade and work through it that way. But they're working on, both at the high school and the middle school level, getting those plans written down so that we can share them with parents and students and all of you and get that all solidified. The portable classrooms have been a little bit of a headache. We have requested, there are 3 different design firms that are under contract with the city that we hoped would design the layout for us. 2 of them have said no, they don't want the work. The 3rd one hasn't gotten back to us yet, but we're nudging on them. If none of the 3 city-affiliated groups agrees to design, then we have to go out to bid for the design. So that's going to be a whole bid process, which is going to take longer. But we're still plugging away and trying to get some progress on that.
Thank you.
And then that's the end of the superintendent's report.
Mr. Caggiano?
How many portables are we talking about? Is it just for the high school only?
It's just for the high school only, and we're looking at 6. We had one person come out and take a look and just tell us what they thought, and they said that we could do 4 with bathrooms, which we don't want to do. We want to keep the bathrooms in the building. And they said that we could fit 6 to 8 depending on how the design layout goes. So that's why we really need a designer to come out and actually design it and do the measurements and do all of that piece for us.
Right, I know some of them, because we have them up at the Volk, usually have 2 classrooms with the bathrooms and so on.
Yeah, we're looking for just the 2 classrooms.
Just for the 2 classrooms per...
Yeah. And we figured that would make it a little bit more expeditious if we're not trying to do plumbing and all of that at the same time, but we're still hitting roadblocks.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item up, we have the hearings, there are none, and then reports of the subcommittees. Ms. Milbury-Ellis.
Sure. The Policies and Procedures Subcommittees met on January 24th, and then again on February 7th, to begin a process of reviewing the school committee's policies in order to create a more robust set of policies and guidelines to help us more efficiently and effectively make decisions and to operate and to better serve the children and educators and all the folks to whom we're accountable. So I will say that in addition to these two meetings, that all of the members of the subcommittee worked independently in reviewing these policies and came to the meetings with with thoughts and intent, and we really had some really great productive meetings. So bear with me, we have quite a few to get through, and I will do my best to do so expeditiously. And you could put it on there? Okay. BA is going to be the first. So the first motion that we're bringing, so what's happening is that we're bringing to this committee a series of motions asking for approval to either amend existing policies or to adopt policies that are new, the majority of which are coming directly from MASC in their rotation of review of policies and then, filtering those down to us. So the first is a motion to approve changes to policy BA.
Second. Any discussion?
None? Roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano. Yes. Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
The second motion is a motion to approve changes to policy BGB.
Second. Any discussion?
Roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo. Mr. Anthony Caggiano. Mr.
Yes.
John.
Wait, I'm sorry, did Ms. Bronson Rizzo have a chance to,
Didn't answer.
do you have an answer?
I have a question for discussion.
Okay.
If prior to doing the motions, if we can say what they're referring to?
Oh, sure.
Instead of the letter?
Yeah, so BGB is policy adoption. So how we create policies and change policies. Any further questions? Okay, let's continue with roll call. Start over, please.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
So the next motion, I'm actually going to amend the motion that I put forward because some of these policies from MASC are new and some are just to update, so we want to make sure that we're clear. So just to clarify, I'm going to break it up into two motions. So the first motion is to approve the amendments MASC made to the following policies. And so I can read you what they actually are because the letters mean nothing to me. So BHE is the use of electronic messaging by the school committee members. I, J, and D is access to digital resources. I, J, N, D, B is the use of technology and instruction. I, J, N, D, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm just gonna say the names. So let's start over. These are a lot. Okay. It's the use of electronic messaging by school committee members. It's access to digital resources, acceptable use of digital resources, use of technology and instruction, universal free school meals, and school nutrition program charge policies. So these are all policies we already have. We're just voting to accept updated language from MASC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there discussion, questions, clarification?
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
The next motion is to approve policies, new policies presented by MASC. These include policy EHAA, district security relating to technology, EHB, data and records retention, GBEE, personnel use of technology. Oops, just give me 1 second. JICJ, student use of technology in schools. KDC, community use of digital resources. And finally, KDCB, district website and social media.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Okay, and the next motion is to approve the restructuring of the Revere School Committee of the Whole as recommended by the Policies and Procedures Subcommittee. So last month, we mentioned to you all how we'd like to restructure our COW meeting at 5 p.m. to be a little more organic, less formal, so we can engage in conversation. And so our committee was kind of thinking how we could do this. At first, we thought we could put tables in here, but then we have to move them so that we can create space for anyone who wants to join in to the 6 p.m. So we kind of settled on what we're proposing to you all is doing this meeting in the Learning Commons, and then purchasing an owl, which is what you call the camera that moves to wherever a speaker is, so that we can still be live streamed for transparency and community engagement. And so it would just be moving it there, so it's less formal. We have an agenda, but it's more of a conversation instead of asking the chair to speak. But of course, if anything ever gets out of order, having the chair reinstitute Robert's rules as needed. So that is the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion?
Roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
And our last motion, I'm actually going to make a motion to amend it, and I will need a second for that amendment. The motion was to create a treasurer position for the Revere School Committee, but it's actually supposed to say to amend to policy BDB, which is school committee officers, and that includes the treasurer position. So do I have a second to make that language amendment?
Second.
Okay, so the new motion is to accept the changes to BDB to include a treasurer of the school committee. Are there any questions or discussion?
Yes.
Need a motion?
What does the role of the treasurer?
And a second.
Okay, so now that it's amended, that is the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and then Mr. Matera, could you repeat?
What will be the role of the treasurer
Yes.
exactly?
So a little bit more context there. We're trying to make sure that we're aligned to Robert's Rules of Order because that's what we adopted. And Robert's Rules includes the creation of a treasurer. So here you can say, it says that the treasurer will be elected by the school committee from its members at the annual meeting. And then the treasurer shall sign payroll, accounts payable and warrants, and other checks and other duties as directed by Robert's Rules and or the committee. And so I want to use this time to also specify that when I was reviewing our minutes from the organizational meeting in January, I realized we actually already voted to assign 2 signatories to checks, which is the superintendent or Matt Cruz. And so that was already submitted to the state in compliance. So this treasurer position here, the description states that's other duties as directed by the committee. So I'd like for us to come to an understanding that we have a treasurer position. This treasurer can sign checks, but it is not mandatory that they sign everything for things to move forward, because we already have assigned signatories, and because it'll be very hard for the district to move forward if we have to wait for the treasurer, whoever it is, to come every single day to sign checks.
Thank you.
Ms. Rizzo?
Yes, I do have a problem with this. I know most regional technical schools have a treasurer. Municipal districts do not have treasurers. And even in the regional technical schools, most of them are paid employees as a treasurer, like we have Matt Cruz. So I don't understand for another person, without, school finance. I know I'm not the brightest light bulb, but I'm not sure if anyone else up here has any kind of education in school finance to be able to do this position, because it's to be taken very seriously. If we're going to go by Robert's rules, it says serves as a custodian of funds of the organization, keeping careful records of all receipts and making no disbursements without the authority of the assembly. Prepare financial statements and reports to the board and members, and takes responsibility for any and all reports required by taxing authorities. And this really is an important position that I believe needs to have some accounting background. And again, why? We have Matt.
Yeah, so finish.
I just don't understand the purpose, other than because that's what the regional technical schools do. Municipals do not.
If I may?
Mr. Caggiano?
First of all, we do have a treasurer. He does not get paid. The only thing he does is he signs the checks. As far as for other regular school committee, they do not have a treasurer. But what they do is they have a participant, one of the school committee people, usually the chairperson, will sign all the warrants and any type of authorization.
Not necessarily, no.
No.
I'll say 99% do not.
I've talked to a couple of them, and that's what they told me.
Ms. Monterosso?
Yes. I definitely agree with you, Ms. Bronson-Rizzo. None of us can replace Matt at all. And so this position isn't to create a business manager out of the school committee. We have our business manager. They do their job. That's why the description here says duties as may be directed by Robert's rules and or the committee. And so to ensure that we are having oversight as we need, including the fiscal oversight, so that we can have someone, whether the whole committee may not be able to talk to Matt, but we can ask the treasurer, hey, can you look this up for me, and have Matt present this. And so it's just a formal position to ensure that we are all diving into our responsibilities while we acknowledge the very important business manager we do have. And I know that there are other school committees that do have treasurer positions, so it's, I think it's not like the committee model, the city model, it's the fact that it's a position that is aligned to Robert's rules.
Mr. Cruz would like to speak?
Thank you.
Just one point of clarification. So the mayor, as the chair of the school committee, does function as that school committee authority on the warrants, whether they be the weekly payroll warrant or that wild weekly paying of all of our bills. So he is functioning in the way that we would need him to be doing that. So the signature flow begins with superintendent, moves to chief financial officer, but nothing is being actually executed without the mayor's additional signature, representing his role as mayor, but also the school committee. So that is happening. It sounds like this is something, additional duties that someone can serve, but it's not like that's not also happening on the execution of all of our warrants. Okay.
Thank you. Good point. I wasn't even thinking that we sign all the warrants every week, so, which is the payroll. Would you want roll call? Is it, can you repeat the motion?
So the motion is to amend BDB, school committee officers with to add the treasurer position with the understanding and agreement from the school committee that the treasurer isn't required to sign every single thing that comes forward. We already have our approved signatories.
Isn't, okay, great.
Yes,
Okay,
is not.
Thank you for clarity. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
No.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
No.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. So with that, the chair of the, if you have anything else to add, but I just wanted to thank our chair and our full subcommittee. I mean, this was a lot of work. It sounds like we're just shouting out 3-letter policies, but so much work was put into this, and the fact that we were able to create and amend so many policies in just a month, I think just speaks to the leadership of our chair of the subcommittee and our whole team. So I want to thank you all for that. And then just a reminder that since these are approved, now they go to MAIC so they can include them and post them on the website.
Thank you. Okay. The portion B on safety and security. Mr. Caggiano.
We did have a meeting, and one of the things is the flip-flops are already installed. And the other thing we're looking at is to add possibly another SRO. I know there's problems within the police department finding, people to do it. So I haven't sat down with the chief yet. We're supposed to be sitting down, and maybe we can look at it, possibly them training another person. So I'll be giving you an update in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Caggiano. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. No actions required right now. And then the motions. Would you like to read them, Mr. Garcia?
It's the secretary.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Mr. Kingston. I miss Mr. Ferrante. He's good at it. Big shoes to fill.
I vote to waive the reading. Motion to encumber $21,000 for invoice number 35 for Left Field LLC for December 2023 professional service. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes. Can I just suggest we can do all in favor, all opposed, and abstaining?
Sure.
I'm okay with that.
Are we allowed to at this price point? It's over 10.
Pardon me?
They're over $10,000. Are you allowed to? Do you need a roll call over 10,000?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it at that amount. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Continue with the roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $21,000 for invoice number 35 for Left Field LLC for December 2023 professional service.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick.
Yes.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $52,766.19 for invoice number 87970000034 for Perkman Eastman Architect DBC for December 2023 professional service. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Motion to encumber $52,766.19 for invoice number 87970000324 for Perkins Eastman Architect, DBC, for December 2023 professional services.
Second.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mr. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Motion to encumber $25,440 for invoice number 12 for Consigli Construction Company for December 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $25,440 for invoice number 12 for Consigli Construction Company for December 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Motion to encumber $1,835.10 for invoice number 1240804 for Weston and Sampson Engineers, Inc. for December 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $1,335.10 for invoice number 1240804 for Weston and Sampson Engineers, Inc. for December 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes. That's all you have, Mr. Kingston? Yep. Just a heads up, Miss Kelly did get a clarification. There is not a sliding scale. The $15 fee is the standard fee. So that is, I think we got the clarity. If you'd like to resubmit that motion.
Yes. So, oh my goodness, what was it? It's getting late. Motion to change the daily rate for the part-time early education programs from $15 to $10.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston.
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Matera.
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Yes.
Ms. Jacqueline Monterosso.
Yes.
Mayor Patrick Keefe.
Yes. We have any unfinished business? No? Oh,
One item on there, right? The furniture?
oh, okay.
So just by way of an update, the requests are due on Friday to Matt. The principals that I've talked to who have delved in so far have a variety of different things that they're asking for. Some are looking for flexible furniture for students in the classroom. Others are more focused on teacher desks or teacher chairs. The desks, I know at the Hill School, they have some staff members who don't have their own desk. They're just working off a computer table, like that one over there. So there are no drawers. There's nothing where you can lock anything up. And so they want to replace those with actual desks. So different issues at every school, but next month we should have a clearer picture of what everybody wants to order because Matt has given them the deadline of Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Ms. Monterosso?
I just want to say, my entire time teaching, I never got a teacher chair. So I appreciate we have a district and a superintendent that cares about our educators because it's the little things that keep us in the classroom.
Thank you. Okay, any new business? No?
If I may,
You may.
I know we talked about adding another vocational program.
Yes, I sought clarity on that, so.
Excuse me?
I sought clarity on that question. I can brief everyone.
So I'm not sure I understand it. We all
Yeah,
set
so
with-
when we were in the policies and procedures subcommittee, we talked about whether it
Right.
needed to be referred to Ways and Means or voted on now.
Right.
So I sought an opinion from our legal counsel because it's just a budget determination. As any individual, yourself could refer it to Ways and Means, and it's voted on when we talk about the budget, not now.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you. Okay. So we have no other new business, okay? And at this point, I'm going to ask that the council, the motion to vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for the following purposes. Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect of collective bargaining with Revere Federation of Paraprofessionals.
Motion to go into executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Pat, say we're not going to return.
And after we resume, we finish with the executive session, we will not be returning, so if you want to just continue watching now, that's totally fine. Have a great night. Motion to, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to enter.